We live in exceptionally difficult times, and this is a piece of legislation that in virtually any other circumstances we could not have imagined supporting, but support it we will. I thank the Cabinet Secretary for his engagement and with my party over recent days, and for his remarks in respect of jury trials, which I'll come on to later. The bill was written in just a matter of hours. That is no mean feat, but it is precisely because it was written in just a matter of hours and it hasn't been consulted upon that we must be robust in our scrutiny of it over the course of this day. Now that the Cabinet Secretary has confirmed the removal of schedules for Part 5, we will support this bill with some minor amendments. We support it not least because the bill contains some vital and much needed changes to give comfort and security to so many people who would otherwise face destitution in the teeth of this crisis. Of great importance, as we've heard many times, are the provisions around evictions. Now, I would hope and expect landlords to be understanding in this emergency and recognise the flexibility being afforded to them by the banks, but nobody should be made homeless in this crisis, and responsible private and social tenants need that extra protection against eviction. Presiding Officer, that sense of national urgency is why the vast majority of the provisions in this bill are necessary, but we still harbour some concerns, particularly around FOI deadlines. But above all, we could not have supported the introduction of the new powers contained in Part 5, Schedule 4, around the ability of ministers to remove juries in trials of indictment for the duration of the emergency. I raised this at the cross-party meeting last week when the bill was first mooted, and I had issued drafting instructions to Clark to remove that section. I'm very grateful to hear the government will respond to that. Jury trials have been part of Scottish justice since the 13th century. They have survived the bubonic plague, the Spanish flu, and 2 world wars. They are a central pillar to our unwritten constitution and our social contract. The English Courts and Tribunal Services are pausing all trials that would require a jury until such time as they can find a way of proceeding safely. They recognise the challenge and the danger of asking juries to sit at this time of heightened infection risk, but they choose not to abandon the jury system, but to pause them while they seek solutions. Indeed, it looks as though across all the democracies in the world, no other country is ending jury trials, and were we to have pressed ahead, we would have stood alone in that regard. Presiding Officer, once only before in the history of these islands have jury trials been replaced by judge-led hearings. The Diplock courts were created in Northern Ireland in 1973 so that terrorism offences could be tried in front of a judge because of risk of reprisal or tampering to juries. The focus of these provisions were around keeping jurors safe, but presiding officer, we are not trying to keep jurors safe from terrorists. We need only find a solution to keep them safe from infection, and I look forward to working with the government before we return in April to that end. As Murdo Fraser said, that those solutions might be bigger venues like theatres or cinemas. It might be about testing everyone on site for the virus every day, and it might involve computer link-ups. We also need to make it easier for witnesses to give testimony via computer link-ups, and I will be bringing amendments at stage 2 to that end. But there will be a solution, and we need one, because the provisions in this bill have been met with a howl of outrage by the legal profession. The Faculty of Advocates, the Law Society, and solicitors the country over have all spoken in opposition to that schedule. It is a marker of the strange times we live in that I find myself in an alliance with Joanna Cherry and Michael Gove in opposition to these provisions. I am glad the government have heeded those calls, because juries matter. They matter because the burden should rest on the prosecution to take a group of everyday people through the evidence and through the details of the law and persuade them of guilt. Above all this, to participate in a jury is to fulfil the social contract. We cannot just simply bypass that. Presiding Officer, I conclude by saying this. We are just 1 week into lockdown, and unamended, this bill would have interrupted an unbroken tradition of Scottish justice that has endured for nearly 800 years. It is a measure that no other democracy has embraced, and it has been roundly condemned by the profession. We should listen to them. I'm grateful for the government's intention to remove it, and I assure them of our support for this bill tonight. Thank you.
We move now to the